Unfortunately, sometimes one bad decision can ruin an entire movie. Dead Man Down, starring Colin Farrell and Terrence Howard, in A Life of Crime in New York City, and what happens when one of them falls for the neighbor across the way, and the way their relationship changes based on the past that they may have together. A little bit vague, but I don't give too much away, other than to say there is a lot that should work about this movie and doesn't. This is a bad movie. It's not done well, and unfortunately, it's pretty much just because of one thing, which we will get to here in just a second. Let me talk about the things that should work. The acting in this is really good. Colin Farrell does very well, as do the people around him. Terrence Howard, I think, is perfectly fine in this movie, in his role as well. The plot of this movie is really interesting when you think about it, and engaging, and has some twists and turns that I didn't see coming and that inform the story in a really neat way. The relationship in this movie is handled in a really interesting and I think fresh way. I don't know that I've seen this kind of relationship develop between a man and a woman in a movie, and a turn that the relationship makes in the very first few minutes of this movie is one of the most impactful and interesting turns I've seen a film do in a long time. It really grabbed me and engaged me, and I thought it was really well done. So why is it then that if I'm saying all these good things, that the movie itself is bad? Well, the directing. I think it all lands on the shoulders of the director. This movie, the pace of this movie is all wrong. All wrong. Now, I know there's relationships developing and there's kind of these heartfelt, emotional tugs that are supposed to be happening in this story, but this director gives the pacing this really drawn out and, thinking kind of pace where everything's very much about contemplative and what's going to happen next, and it just doesn't need that. The relationships and the plot work on their own and really kind of, I think, demand a more aggressive and a more tightly edited kind of film. This movie, as more of an action-y vehicle than a contemplative vehicle, I think is a better film. In fact, I'm almost sure of it, because with the acting as good as I thought it was and the plot as interesting as I think it probably was, I think it could have really held up had it been a lot tighter and a lot more aggressively edited, with the kind of feeling, both in the way that it's scored and everything, that gives you that sense of turbulence, that gives you that sense of suspense and what's going to happen and what's going on. And this film just did not have that. And unfortunately, I think only because of that makes it a hard film to watch in many ways. So although there are bits and pieces of this movie that if you pull them out and you watch them as a scene, you go, oh, I like that. I like what happened there. I like that acting moment. I like the way those characters did that. When you put them all together, it just doesn't work.